Welcome to NFL Daily, where we are predisposed to the grind.
Part of the DNA, baby.
I'm Gregg Rosenthal. That's Steve Wyche. We've also got Patrick Claybon and Jourdan Rodrigue. It's a full house on a Week 10 preview. And that quote is from the Steve Wyche collection, the only, host here, analyst on NFL Daily that has his own clothing line.
True. It's part of the Bear Clothing line, but they asked me to jump in. And
you can literally go to a website where it says the Wyche collection, and it's just got you and Manti Te'o cheesing. People should check it out at Bear Clothing. I wasn't planning to just promote you. I was more upset that you clearly thought, who's the best looking guy at NFL Network, and you didn't choose Patrick or myself. You went with Manti to be your model.
His hair, he's got it, man.
I'm not actually arguing with it. I'm just
No, don't. It's a former veteran, who put some stuff together and asked me to get on Bear Clothing.
There you go.
Athletic gear. So there you go.
We're here.
He's a multi-hyphenate. He's a model, an actor,
Not a model.
an influencer, a clothing influencer.
Wyche? Oh yeah, he's on the commercials.
Brand.
He's an analyst.
Podcaster.
He's a podcaster.
Legend in the game.
He's a play-by-play guy, and he's a sideline guy. I mean, anything Wyche, they need him to do, he can do it.
And that's why we need him to lead off here.
Okay.
The first game.
Woo-hoo!
Steve Wyche, the Baltimore Ravens, coming off of 2 wins in a row, are 3.5-point favorites at the Minnesota Vikings, who got J.J. McCarthy back and feel great about it. The over-under 49.5. Kevin Kugler and Daryl Moose Johnston on the call. Both of these teams, it's a really juicy one. How do you see it going?
It's a juicy game. I'm glad I got the purple on because we're starting off with the 2 purple teams right here. 3.5 is a little bit much for me. I think the Vikings defensively looked much better than we've seen them play in a long time. Could have been a familiar opponent in Detroit, but they seem to have some things going, and a lot because they got Alex Van Ginkel back, right? He's an edge setter that they were lacking. He's a heck of a player, which is why I'm not that comfortable with the 3.5 for Baltimore. Not saying the Ravens are going to win, but this is going to be a pretty darn tight game. And I love what J.J. McCarthy brought. He brought some of that, Justin Herbert, I got this. Like, we're all good. I'm fresh now. There was a lot more juice to that offense than it was with the one-armed Carson Wentz.
Because he wasn't afraid to go for it.
No.
He actually had some bad negative plays. There were a couple plays where he turned the wrong way. One resulted in a fumble that they got back. He missed a couple throws in terms of accuracy. Brady was a little hard on him, but he kept just like firing it, and he also had some big-time plays. So I think they will take that trade-off, certainly out of a young player like McCarthy, but even comparing him to what we saw early in the season and what we saw out of Wentz, you want a little big playability because you have so many big playmakers on your offense with you.
Yeah, and it was such a great confidence-boosting game mentally for J.J. McCarthy. We talked about it a little bit on the recap show. It wasn't just that the floor of every other phase that was supposed to already be helping a young quarterback out, the plan going into the season, whether it was a run game that looks improved or an offensive line that played better or a defense that looked like itself again,
right.
Getting into the backfield, making plays on the ball. That defensive line looked leaps and bounds better than it had over the last couple of weeks for the Vikings. All of those things combined give J.J. McCarthy a complete runway. The only problem is they're catching the Ravens at a time when the Ravens are vastly improved on the defensive side of the ball, and it starts with moving Kyle Hamilton back to linebacker and defensive lineman.
I wanted 2 years in a row, they've made a change in their safety rotation at the middle of the season. So they make the trade and they get Alohi Gilman from the Chargers, who's a heck of a player. He has looked all world. Last year they did with Ardarius Washington, who ruptured his Achilles working out this offseason. But that switch, now they're moving Kyle Hamilton closer to the line of scrimmage. Last year, they moved him back off the line of scrimmage, has changed the flow of their defense. So that's interesting how that one position with that one player and Kyle Hamilton, but 2 different guys who've shown up, has really influenced what they do.
Well, I think what we see in the secondary, really the defense with Baltimore these past 2 years is where they have the talent deficiency, because Kyle Hamilton is the versatile, talented player. And you get like Teddy Buchanan, who's still playing a lot of snaps, where you feel like, wow, we really need some more athleticism in certain spots in the field. You get Kyle Hamilton down there, you can make adjustments elsewhere, and things work out a little bit better. You would like to see more pass rush, but Kyle Hamilton can get involved in that as well. It's tough for one guy to be the solution to everything, which is the major concern. But that's the issue on offense as well.
I wish I brought him up for Defensive Player of the Year potentially.
Well, we're getting Roquan Smith back, healthy help. But flip side of that, since we're coming off the trade deadline, to this point, there has been no more influential trade than the Chargers getting Odafe Owe from the Ravens. He's got 4 sacks.
For Gilman, yeah. So where it helped out both teams.
Gilman, helped out both
Win-win.
teams.
Yeah.
You hardly ever see
and
that.
the Ravens
unite.
It fell a little under the radar because it happened Monday. We didn't mention it on the Monday Night Recap, but Draymond Jones going to the Ravens. Now, that was a guy who in Denver had a big enough season to get a monster contract in Seattle. Did not really work out in Seattle, but in Tennessee this year, he was playing well. And I wonder, Patrick, you're a Ravens fan. Like, which defensive improvement do you think is more trustworthy, is sticking? Because the Vikings did look like a different defense, and the Ravens, I noticed, not only did they add Draymond Jones, all 53 players were available at practice this week.
Here they come.
That is
Here they come.
like they're the healthiest team in the NFL.
Well, knock on wood on that one, but I think that's more consistent in terms of the high variance that you get when you're still. I mean, they're not blitzing at the rate of like the 2024 Vikings were for Brian Flores, but they still blitz at a high volume. So there is variance there, and they're going up against in this matchup the best quarterback in the NFL. Against the blitz right now, and Lamar's still completing 90+% of his passes.
He's playing at such a high level
on play action, and I've screamed like if it's working every time, run it every time. And in the second half against the Dolphins, it was play action, play after play after play, and it was working. So we'll see if it works against Flores and company.
I almost don't. I feel like I say this every time Flores comes up against a quarterback that's playing really well against the blitz, or even like medium against the blitz. I want to see those weird, funky coverages where he just drops everybody. I know that, they have been up and down when just trying to rush for or even rush a lighter front. But to your point with Van Ginkel back and that
changes everything.
That front playing better, I just want to see them drop everybody. And I have no doubt that Lamar can navigate that, but I want to see them make it as tough as possible in a different way than we are typically accustomed to seeing Flores.
This might be the game to do it. It might be the game to do it.
They said a lot about Van Ginkel's importance. I think the way they used him, he's kind of like their Kyle Hamilton in a way, and Blake Cashman is healthier now too, in that like they can ask him to do a lot of different stuff and he opens up the playbook. Dallas Turner, their first round pick from a year ago, went from playing about every snap to not playing just about at all, and they definitely look better. I just love a game like this where they're playing each other, unfortunately, like at the perfect time for us as neutral fans,
for sure.
Not for Patrick as a Ravens fan, where they just both need this game so bad. They both feel like they're ready to take off, and yet the loser of this game, and these two teams won, 26 games last year combined? Like, the loser of this game is going to be in a world of hurt and see that, that playoff percentage just sink.
Well, when you start 1-5, it's going to be a lot of games like that. So
Yeah, it does happen.
it's okay. A couple of teams that have young quarterbacks in our next matchup, Gregg Rosenthal. The New York Giants with Jackson Dart go on the road to take on last year's #1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, whose Bears are 4.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. G-Reg's calling one of his old teams again, as he is on the call with Joe Davis. Do the Bears ride that wave against another defense that can be susceptible to the pass game?
To everything, especially to the running game, I would say, but really to everything. It's just a bad defense. There was a sequence in last week's 49ers Giants game which just told you everything. They had a first down throw from Mac Jones, I think, to Juwan Jennings. It's just a 7 or 10 point game at the time, and the next 8 plays, they just ran the ball until they scored a touchdown.
Ran it right down the throat.
8 times, and they were all almost straight up the middle. And the Giant, and that's like a bad running team, the 49ers. Like, in terms of per play success rate, I know they have Christian McCaffrey. The Bears are a whole nother matter. They got Darnell Wright out there sending Shamar Stewart into like the netherworld.
That was a nasty rep. It was one of the nastiest reps I've seen.
It was not nice.
I've ever seen.
Did you see his cartwheel after a big run block? Darnell Wright did a whole cartwheel.
After the game-winning touchdown.
Big man moving.
I heard Chris Long, who's great, and he would know, what it's like to go up against great tackles. He compared Darnell Wright, said he's got a little Penei Sewell to him. Like, that is how nasty and athletic he's playing right now.
Well, I mean, and that's the athleticism part of it. What a Monangai Am I saying it right?
Yeah,
we're
Kyle
actually
Monangai.
calling him Monung Dude now.
Monung
'cause
dude.
he's a
That's
dude.
true.
Yeah.
He's not just a guy.
Yeah.
They found something.
Oh,
this
he's
is
awesome.
I mean, everyone's like, oh, he's a tough runner. I'm like, man, when I see this dude, his vision and his balance is insane. I mean, you're seeing some runs right here. He's just like, oh, well, the Bengals don't really want to hit anybody, so let me just run right at him. Great block downfield, and he's got the giddy up to kind of get there. I think this is a great matchup here. The fact too that so much is on Jackson Dart now. I mean, their running game, even with Tyrone Tracy offensively, is not that great. Dart's got to make play after play. The Bears' defense to me is nothing to sneeze at. And so I think coming off that win they had last week, the way they won it, that could be their converse Hail Mary this year to kind of get them going.
Well, Joe Flacco sneezed at him a little bit. Joe Flacco put up a million yards on that.
A million yards on it, but I mean, is Jackson Dart going to do that?
No.
I
And
mean, he doesn't have
to your
Jamar
point-
Chase and T. Higgins and
Exactly. And I think what's good, the Bears and Dennis Allen can go send a thank you note to Robert Saleh and the 49ers because they did a really great job of really closing off Jackson Dart's running lanes. They did a great job covering a quarterback who doesn't have barely anyone to throw to. And certainly their run game has suffered minus a couple players, including Cam Scatterbo. And Jackson Dart was going to have to be the one to make plays happen. So the 49ers did a really nice job of just closing off all of the little creases and holes that he could see for that vision running that he's very good at. And I think the Bears try to play him a similar way.
A lot of just dump offs. And I think he's playing well for the situation that he's in. The offensive line is playing well, to be fair. I actually think the Giants have a pretty good offensive line. I am curious to see this Bears offensive line against the pass rush that the Giants have, which wasn't great last week, but they were getting rid of the ball quick. Because if you go through and look at who the Bears face, you could almost come up with the rankings of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. It's just kind of random, but I just was looking at it. I was like, oh, that's one of the worst pass rushes in the league. So it'll be interesting to see them. They have a left tackle, Theo Benedict, struggling a little bit against a better pass rush. And then I was looking at the DVOA and everything. They have faced the third easiest schedule in terms of their offense has faced the third easiest schedule in terms of defenses, and it gets much harder the rest of the way, really after this week. So there will be bigger tests, but they're stacking wins that's going to keep them in the playoff race.
In those advantages, right, where you evaluate, if you're looking at the schedule and you see the Bears' rushing efficiency, they're number 9 in rushing efficiency, but you consider that they weren't running the ball that well, schedule or not, at the start of the season.
Right.
So they're a little bit better than that number where the Giants are 32 on rushing efficiency on the defensive side, where you do start to wonder that criticism they had of the Rams front, if these guys want to get out there and rush the passer. And the run is not necessarily a priority, where you wonder what the overall priorities are. And then for the Giants on offense, we're Jackson Dart. Hey, it's an RPO. Figure it out. Like, it's up to you, man.
He's so fun to watch.
You make the decisions, but you'd like to see some layups for the kid.
Yeah, there's just none there for him. He's got to make something happen. One thing that Greg, you're talking about earlier about the Giants' run defense, was Carl Banks right on Dexter Lawrence?
I mean, I would not feel comfortable downgrading that man without doing like a very close tape study. So hopefully Carl Banks has been doing that. I think Giants fans that are close watchers, people watching the team, would say he's not having the impact, and he's coming off a pretty major injury that he had a couple years ago when he was maybe the best defensive player in the league. It is definitely not at that level.
I think that this is, once again, a big running game for the Chicago Bears. You could see how much it settles Caleb Williams into rhythm. It sets him up to sort of make these like really cool like hero plays that he makes 2 or 3 of every time, and it minimizes the opportunity to kind of fritz out on some of the other plays that we've seen in some of that inconsistency with him over the course of the year. He's getting better to me every week. And I also love the potential of getting some different things that Ben Johnson wants to put into this game plan long-term against this opponent, because not only does he want to run the ball as much as possible, but he also wants to get the tight ends working, which against the secondary is something, it's a place to do it. And he also wants to get Caleb and Rome Odunze back into their connection, DJ Moore on some of those catch and run screens. So I see them working the perimeter a lot. If they can, if he can stand in there long enough against the pass rush, working the short and middle perimeter a lot to try to get those players into that rhythm, whether it's on catch and run screens or simply outs to Rome Odunze.
He could have Zach Robinson call the plays if he wants to work the outside perimeter.
Woo!
And I want to,
Not a pistol.
we should move to this next great game, but I do want to
so
hit
juicy.
one thing at a future date that I saw on the New York Post, the cover the other day.
Gotta be careful now.
Yeah, this one, not the front cover, which was a little wild, although you almost had to give him a little credit on Wednesday. They say, could Joe Shane and Brian Daboll be a split ticket? There's starting to be like a little buzz around there that Daboll might get the axe, but Joe Shane stays, which to me is just doing it backwards again, hustling backwards. Like,
well, I mean, the Giants have had such a great run
Right.
hiring GMs and coaches lately.
we'll see if
But
this
it wouldn't surprise anybody.
actually happens, but I think you either start over or not. But don't split the baby.
Yeah.
Don't split the ticket.
And hopefully that
No tears.
call's not coming from inside the house.
That's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
interesting that that's
Yeah.
starting to whisper.
Ooh,
And
yikes.
we like that. We like this midseason turmoil.
Yes, it's what the Giants do best.
The Jets just said white flag.
Yeah, you know what
Giants are
though,
gonna
and to that point, the Jets are doing great with their midseason. They just went clean. They're just
Yeah.
like, hey,
We're
we
letting-
know,
we're letting
we
all
know,
you
we
guys
get
know.
it. Yeah.
Let all you guys know.
Because the Jets are looking at a team in their division
Mhm.
that has the only thing that matters, and that is Drake May. And he's going on the road to take on the now rested Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 48.5. It is CBS 1. It is Jim. It is Tracy. It is Tony Romo and Jourdan Rodrigue.
hmm
How do the Buccaneers deal with their injuries now that they're rested going up against Drake May and company?
Well, I expect Emeka Egbuka to be back, like playing the way that we're used to seeing him at this point as he started the season, because a week of rest would be really good for him. He was such a high volume player. And if you get banged up and you are like the go-to emergency option here for Baker Mayfield, you're just going to wear down. So I'm glad the bye came at the time it did. The problem still is that Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving did not start the week practicing. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on here. And I'd like to see Baker Mayfield play better football. He started the year so great, really struggled the last 2 weeks. Baker Ball's got to start rolling again, guys.
Oh wow! Now she's just setting it up.
Baker Ball keeps on rolling, baby.
That is amazing. I do love the Patriots schedule where like every 4 or 5 weeks they play a good team, and then they just go back into hibernation.
That's
It's
the
perfect.
National Football League.
No, it's
a conspiracy against Drake May.
it's great. I mean they
Right
play,
as he enters the conversation.
they played the Bills, and then they had Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons. Now they get the Bucks, and then after this it's like it's Jets, Bengals, Giants, and then
they
they're
got a
bye.
late bye, a week 14 bye.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great for them.
So I think it is really exciting. It's like play a really good team challenge for this entire team, because I think the weaknesses that they have, which I would say are their pass defense. Like the advanced metrics has them as a bottom 6 or 7 pass defense. Despite like a good defensive line and talent in the back end, they haven't really been good slowing down opposing quarterbacks, but they haven't played many great ones. And so this is a real test, I think, for both sides of the ball. And can the Patriots offensive line, which has given up 17 sacks over the last 3 weeks, identify where those rushers are coming from?
That's gonna
Because
be tough.
they struggled with it against the Falcons last
And
week.
you know, Todd Bowles is coming with just the whole Rubik's Cube matrix of looks. I love this game, and I'm glad you said that about the Patriots, because to me, how do they handle success?
Mhm.
Right? This is a tough game. If they lose, there's no shame in losing to the Buccaneers, who walk onto the field expecting to win,
hmm
regardless of their health status of their players. But the next 3 games don't look great. Can they handle it? This is like sustain until the bye, right? They've got the late bye. They're rolling. They've got momentum. Drake May's playing well. They ran the ball a little bit better last week. You know, their defense is steady. I mean, they're just a tough-minded football team. That's why I like watching them play. But let's see how tough they are mentally. Again, you lose this game, it's competitive. There's no shame in losing to the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. But after that, that's where we're really going to find out how the Patriots are.
Yeah, it's in Tampa. They are a slight underdog. I would have thought it'd be more. Let's listen to Mike Vrabel. The Patriots and the Buccaneers were 2 of many teams. There's this article written all across the league where it's like the local beat writer has to say, well, they didn't make a trade. I know everyone's disappointed. The Bucs and the Patriots disappointed a lot of fans out there.
Deals are like being pregnant. You either are or you aren't. There's no like it's either a deal or it's not. So I don't know how close you can be. I know that everyone worked hard and that we investigated and looked in and made phone calls and what personnel departments do. And in the end, we decided that this was what we were going to do.
He's
What
an
a-
expert, father of two.
What a metaphor.
That was like a total Harbaughism.
know.
That was a real good pull.
Somehow, made me feel less uncomfortable than if Jim Harbaugh were going to say it.
Yeah, I think you should go with something that's definitive, like electrocution, right? You're
Like-
either shocked
faking,
to the point where
right?
your heart stops, or you're not. Going with something.
Wait, so when I was pulling like the Apple, plug out yesterday and being a little too loose with it and got shocked, that does not count as
that's not an
electrocuted?
electric.
Yeah, if you were in water, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, we would need to not have Gregg anymore to meet that, and I don't
Rude.
want to be in that. I don't want to be.
Yeah,
in that
I don't want a world. I don't want that world.
the binary nature of electrocution. Maybe not so much in the other aspect that Mike Vrabel is mentioning, but I think the point that he makes there, before anybody gets all upset and itchy about the team contending and building around Drake May, hey, we tried. We're in here working. We're here making
Right.
phone calls. We're not going to do something just for the sake of doing it, which I think is a solid approach.
They're an interesting team because they're so thin
Yeah.
and they haven't been tested. They're they've been one of the healthiest teams in the NFL this year in terms of not missing players. They could be missing a few guys this week. Keyshawn Boutte, Ramondre Stevenson, and I believe one of their offensive linemen might all be out. And sneakily, like Boutte is massive for their team.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was
Your face when you said that.
there you go.
No, you guys, did you catch the subtle thing that Vrabel did, master at talking to the media and sending a message in the media, where this team has very clearly been built at the bare minimum in collaboration with Mike Vrabel having such a huge say in it. He sort of distanced himself from it at the end of his comments. He said, and they did whatever personnel
that's what personnel
departments
departments do.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah. It's like,
LA Wolf.
he's probably
LA
like,
Wolf
I
is
was
like,
going to
okay.
get it. I feel like I could get a couple guys in. But the thing that's interesting about this matchup to me is how, I think this is going to be a pass heavy game for both offenses. These are two really, really good run defenses. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were limiting success rate on run plays among the best in the league consistently over the start to the season before their bye. And the Patriots have not surrendered 50 yards to a single running back
Crazy.
through the entire start to the season so far, which is astounding, especially considering even though they didn't necessarily play some great teams so far, they did play teams with good running backs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is going to be a real pass-heavy game, and maybe you'll get to see your guy, Drake May, put on a little bit of a show.
If you can get protected.
It's your guy versus my guy.
I could see.
Who's gonna win?
I know who gets the number 1 draft pick in games this week. You get it next week. You get it next week. I got this one. No. Let's just listen to Baker Mayfield because he was at a podium and we like his declarations on all things football.
Just got to keep going. At this point, it's real football starts, and we have obviously a really, really good opponent coming in here.
Okay, so it's official. Football not starting in week 1, not starting after Thanksgiving. It's week 10.
Well, I mean,
all happening.
this is where, because you look at Tampa Bay, they've got so much distance on the rest of the NFC South. Now this is where they start stacking bricks home field for the NFC.
There is something about the double digit of week 10 and getting past the trade deadline, getting to November. It's a long season for everyone. It does feel like a big moment. We're into the second half.
Yep.
We've made some progress. I feel good about it. Baker, I agree with you. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about one of those other teams in the NFC South. Big game on NFL Network this week. One of the many ways you can measure Patrick Claybon's influence on the entire football media sphere is that I always hear people on other podcasts when they talk about momentum, they hear Patrick's voice in their head and then they call him out and try to answer the voice in their head. And that just happened to me recently too. When I was talking about week 10 being a big moment, I sort of heard a Patrickism in my head and he gave it to me during the break, which is, well, football is cumulative, and each week matters. And that's true, Patrick. All of them count in the standings.
Okay.
But my argument would be, once you get later in the season, the games do matter more because of everything that's happened before. It's like the Ravens-Vikings game matters more now than it would have in week 2 because they have lost their wiggle room based on everything that's already happened. And that's the beauty of the NFL season. It's just... It's a crescendo at the end,
Yes.
It's always rising. The action.
That's definitely how we feel. That that it matters more. But had they not lost those games, then
Sure, but you can't go back. You can't change it anymore.
It's like
it did happen that way. So now it's like playoff percentages. I think that's a good way to look at it, of like your chance to make the playoffs. Huge differences if you win or lose a game depending on the opponent at this time of year, where it's not as much in the beginning.
No, we feel like we flip the switch and the light turns on, and you're like, I did that. But there was an entire chain of processes that started with coal being mined and then burned that led up to that.
But you can't change that, and you can change what happens.
But look,
forward.
I mean, okay, let's go conversely to that. No, let's go conversely. Woody Johnson. This is not when real football starts. This is when it has ended.
Well, that's true. There are teams that are just saying bye-bye.
Well, now if I'm picking teams, let me go back with Baker. The Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Indianapolis Colts, Steve Wyche, in Berlin for the first time ever. And you know where you can see this game? On NFL Network.
Yes.
Whoa.
Rise, shine, and watch Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. The game's also available on NFL Plus. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Go to plus.nfl.com for details. I'm excited about it. Adam Amin, Kurt Warner are going to be on the call. The over-under is 48.5. The Colts are favored by 6.5.
6.5.
6, a familiar number, because they turned the ball over 6 times against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steve, what do they do this time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a Daniel Jones? Did the carrots turn into a pumpkin?
Oh.
We'll see, because, Atlanta's got some guys who can get after him. My big thing is, now that the Colts have Sauce Gardner and Shavarius Mooney-Ward is coming back.
Not this week. And
Not
we don't know that Sauce Gardner's playing, but he's in the concussion protocol, but is practicing.
Right,
Sounds positive.
All right, so Michael Penix, they're the most frustrating team in the NFL to watch, because they run the same stuff over and over. Outside the numbers. Bijan screen, outside the numbers. We're going to toss sweep outside the numbers. I mean, I put out a tweet the other day. If this were a basketball game, the shot chart would look like all mid-range and three-point shots. They don't play in the paint. So it'll be, if Indianapolis can score on them, that's the main thing. Atlanta's defense is going to give them a little something, but the Falcons' offense has just become very predictable. It is just, we can say we want about Michael Penix having a big arm. He throws it in one direction, and that's towards the sideline, whether it's on him, whether it's on Zach Robinson. They do not attack the middle of a defense. Not saying you can necessarily do that against the Colts, but the 6.5 number is huge for me for the Colts. But if Atlanta loses this one, I mean, the calls for a change have been very loud there. Arthur Blank's not a midseason change guy, but Raheem Morris might have to be, in terms of changing his offensive coordinator, play caller, if this goes the same way it's gone, because it is the same act every game. Yeah,
it's unfortunate, because you see so much potential out of the players that they have.
Yeah.
And yes, I think you can also, we have this, cite the offensive line injuries, and obviously that's a problem. But you are so spot on about, he wants to be a perimeter thrower, and he's a dang good one as well. But there needs to be balance and dimension within the offense. And it's one of those things where I joke, I'm not really joking, but I joke, I'm like, they're tarnishing my beloved pistol formation.
Yes, no, are they ever?
Because they don't want to run pure under-centered play action. They don't want to even run like gun run play action. They don't want to do those types of things. They still want the benefit of play action, which is why they stay in the pistol. And also because Bijan is really, really good at setting up the middle layer of a defense like a quarterback would in shotgun. He's doing that out of the pistol formation. The problem is, when you spam it the level that they have, teams don't actually believe that you're going to run directionally or throw or attack the middle of the field like some of the actual play action would help them do. Instead, what they know they're going to do is either give the ball to Bijan to try to set something up and crash hard wherever he's going, right? Wherever you see him start to move directionally, or they're going to attack the perimeter in the passing game. And I think that is such a disappointment and a huge problem. And I feel like there's too many dudes on this team, on this offense, to get away with that.
And Drake London's coming off one of the best games of his career. And,
Sick.
If we did a winners and losers from the trade deadline, how about winners, NFL Network? You get Sauce Gardner on Drake London potentially for this matchup, because no cornerback travels with a number one receiver more than Sauce Gardner.
Another reason you don't want to spam the perimeter. Sauce Gardner's there now.
Right. And like that's the type of body type I think he does best against. If anyone can try to cover Drake London, and Marcus Jones is not that guy last week, certainly. It would be Sauce Gardner. And so I'm really excited to see that and see what Lou has up his sleeve in this matchup, like on that side of the ball. And on the others, I just want a little more, like, not to get into the X's and O's. I just want a little more flash out of Penix. 'Cause there's not a lot of wow. There's not a lot of big time throws.
Nope.
Like
Bros.
big time foes. I just would like Michael Penix to have some big time foes. Just like give me something to be a little more excited about. He's been very like, if you just kind of put I know it looks different, but like it's giving me like early Andy Dalton or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make me feel something.
And we did. We got that brief glimpse of what Kirk Cousins looked like in this offense against the Miami Dolphins. And anybody that had that thought, maybe that thought has drifted further back in their minds where, the lack of creativity goes across the board. Jourdan Robinson's runs are going outside the tackles 76% of the time. 76
all they do
percent of the time.
It's that middle and wide zone again.
Where you have to defend 4 places against the Atlanta Falcons, and you got it. And we've seen it multiple times.
It's a great moment here for the Colts, who haven't really been quite a national team, even though they're one of the biggest stories of the year. How did they respond? They're in new situations.
Right.
How do they respond to especially Daniel Jones, to their worst performance of the week? Their offensive line got housed last week.
Yes, it did.
I really think it was more about the offensive line than Daniel Jones even. And so how do they respond in a big spot in Berlin?
And this is one, though, watching the way the Colts played. They hadn't played that way for almost all the season. So I'm
As
saying,
an outlier.
was that the stinker? Because they should be able to run the ball this week. They find where Caden Ellis is on the Falcons defense and go away from him.
Yeah.
They should be able to run the football. I think, Daniel Jones' offense gets going a little bit again. His Falcons defense is good. I mean, at 2 levels, on the front end and the back end, and then Caden Ellis is, great inside linebacker. Otherwise, they've got struggles. But to go back to Penix, though, but what they do, Patrick, they go so wide that they're adding a 12th defender in the sideline. It is like one of the most brutal things to watch week after week because they make it so easy for the defense.
I like Wyche always gets a little more frustrated when it comes to the Falcons.
It's because my son's a Falcons fan, so I watch all their games, and it's just like,
I'm there with you.
this is no mesh, no rub routes, like nothing going on.
Speaking of the international slate too, if any listeners want the best belly laugh they probably will get listening to a show all year, when you were on the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, that's the Big Time Froze with Craig Horlbeck is an all-time moment where I can never think of it in a different way after you guys talked about it.
The very serious analytical site, Pro Football Focus, naming their like hardcore analytics category a big time foe. It's just like sounds like a 6-year-old.
I can't ever unhear it. It's incredible.
Yeah. And one note in huge coach speak, pick your guy up. Shane Steichen, when in a conversation about Dimes' performance, said he could have been more balanced in giving the ball to Jonathan Taylor a little bit more. So pick up your guy.
Fair.
Coach Steichen.
Wow.
Good opportunity. There. Let's go to our next game, which would be a great matchup. Looking forward to, but we do have an injury note. Jacksonville, a 1.5 point favorite at the Houston Texans because there is no C.J. Stroud for this one, ruled out with a concussion. His head bounced off the field last week, was ruled out for the remainder of the game. We'll miss this one. Ian Eagle and Justin James Watt on the call on our broadcast partner, CBS, where we get a chance, Greg, to see these two teams in the division. They've had knockdown dragouts throughout time. So maybe Davis Mills comes in here and gives the Jags a scare as they trade for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I think they swept them last year. The Jaguars won one of the ugliest games of the season. In week 3 it was. That was one where it was just craziness back and forth, and eventually Jacksonville got that win. I would feel good about them if they had CJ. They just feel a little cursed this year because they finally were all together last week, Nico and Kirk and CJ, and they looked good early in that game. I think they would have beat the Broncos in that game. They had the lead and everything, and this would just be a sad way for their season to feel not quite over, but close to over if they're 3-6 already with these division losses.
I am not counting them out because of that defense.
I think they could win this game,
and
to be
the quarterback
fair.
they're facing.
Fair.
Trevor Lawrence will give them an opportunity to make a defensive score. I mean, I'm not saying negatively. I mean,
no, it's just you're right. Like,
I mean, the
every
smoke,
game.
Smoke that they bring on defense.
He did last time against them. You're right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so he knows them, and he's given up a few against them. So whether it's a strip sack whether to pick. I think this is one where their defense can absolutely keep them in the game if they deny Jacksonville running the football.
I'm interested to see. I don't know that this is the week to like showcase whatever you're planning to do to overhaul your passing game against one of the best defenses in the NFL. But I am really interested to see what Jacksonville looks like. I'm interested to see, especially post-trade with Jacoby Myers. I'm interested to see what his role is and then how they continue to build off of it in plan and preparation for the eventual return of Travis Hunter. And, Jacksonville's defense has been up and down. They really, really miss Devin Lloyd. I don't know that this offense minus CJ Stroud gives them a ton of trouble. So this might just be Jacksonville's entire team versus the Texans defense.
The Jaguars have had a lot of important injuries. I think they really miss Brenton Strange, their tight end, who everything would go through. Trayvon Walker just hasn't been the same playing with that club on his hand.
Yeah.
He's limited in snaps. Devin Lloyd was back at practice on Wednesday, and they did give an indication, which is weird that he would just Liam Cohen, always being so honest at the podium, said Parker Washington is their slot, and Jacoby Myers will be on the outside because it's too much to learn to win.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's starting.
So
it's happening.
That was your big brain thought, though. Was part of your big brain thought that like Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be minimized?
I said that. I said it's weird that it's not working out, and they kept trying it. But I think part of the reason why you're trading for Jacoby Myers is not just because Travis Hunter's out, but also because eventually you would like you want to see what Jacoby Myers is going to look like on the perimeter because you want your quote unquote Chris Godwin, Mike Evans combo. Now, I'm not one-to-one comping these guys, right? But you want to run your offense through that type of passing concept. And so I was theorizing that Travis Hunter will play more in the slot when he returns, and you funnel a lot of your passing game through that hyper-versatile player, and then you get a really solid perimeter guy. Now, I think they're going to be testing out, is Jacoby Myers going to be that perimeter guy? I think we'll see a bunch of different combinations.
And the local reporters have already been putting out there that the team doesn't see Jacoby Myers as necessarily a rental, that they're hoping, I think, to get him locked in.
He's a good young player.
I know he is kind of young. They also thought that about Greg Newsome, and that might work out, but he's been getting picked on week after week.
Well, I mean, that
They
happened
traded
up in Cleveland, which is why, speaking of Travis Hunter, I think he's going to be more on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is a switch because they see that things are not working at corner. When you talk to people, they feel he's more of a natural corner. He's more of a threat as receiver, but more of a natural corner, which is why when he comes back, they may give him more defensive reps because they've got more depth on the offensive side.
Yeah, that's the problem coming into the season. Travis Hunter, the cornerback, is the best cornerback.
He's the better cornerback.
And they're also going to be without Jordan Lewis, it sounds like, in this game. There's just been, and Brian Thomas Jr., we should point out, I don't think is going to play in this game either. No. And neither is De'Ami Brown. We don't know that early in the week, but they're out of practice early. Shout out to Travis Etienne, by the way, who's just like winning, running his face off and making himself a lot of money in free agency this offseason.
Well, that's who the offense goes through. The unquestioned best player on the Jags this season has been Travis Etienne. Like, it's not even close when they were struggling against the Raiders. Mind you, Etienne single-handedly, it felt like won the night.
There was a 4th and 2 run he had where he showed so much toughness to get that first down. I was thinking, like, man, the rookie early version of Travis Etienne is not getting that first down. And in a game like that, that was 7 points. They end up scoring a touchdown on that drive, and he's breaking tackles. I'm just like, this dude is running like a man possessed.
It's an innate ability that's gotten better. He was good at it early on in his career, but Etienne's ability to run at the outside of people based on their positioning has, I think, given him a chance to extend his career, avoid those violent collisions, because you're never getting a square shot on Travis Etienne. And I know the number, the small number makes him look like a slender guy. He's bigger than the number would indicate, but also, nobody's ever just straight up blasting. And when they do, it looks bad because he's trying to play angles.
It's what they used to say about Alvin Kamara, too, years ago, that he was going to extend his career because whenever you tried to hit him, first of all, he's at a better angle than you. And these safeties used to talk about how he would just collapse one side of his body when you try to take him down. So you just couldn't get a read on him, and he had a better angle on you. And it did extend his career. And
Work
I think
done.
It's the same. Yeah.
175
good pull.
pounds, played 10 or 11 years.
Well, hopefully Jacoby Myers will get Etienne some help, because this all Travis in this one. So let's go to a game where some people would invoke the term trap. The Buffalo Bills are 9.5-point favorites against the Miami Dolphins team that has won one and lost one in their last 2 games. The over-under is 50.5. Andrew Catalon, Charles Davis, our good friend and best person on the planet, and Jason McCourty on the call on broadcast partner CBS Jourdan. Do the Miami Dolphins take the bags off of the heads at Hard Rock and get a win against Buffalo in the division?
No.
Well.
I do think Buffalo looked so much better on defense last week. And yes, they're still decimated by injuries. They lost Michael Hoyt to an Achilles tear. That's going to be,
a tough blow.
Right when they got him back, they lost him again. Deion Walker's playing awesome. He's playing awesome. If he can consistently build and put these games together, game over game over game, he is such a factor in building up and getting that run defense into a better spot. And Maxwell Hairston changes so much about what the Bills want to do on defense in terms of mixing up their coverages and even allowing one player to travel a little bit more, play a little bit more man coverage as well. So that's a huge factor. I just think, Miami is dangerous because they're in sort of effort mode, right? What do they have to lose? They already made the switch, fired Chris Greer last week, or mutual parting as it was sort of put out there as. And then, interim GM Champ Kelly traded Jalen Phillips, right? So now they're this different team and they're sort of on the downhill slope now toward the end of the season, but you have to see them put up a fight. You have to see what Mike McDaniel can really do to coach up a group that their season is over and they're in transition.
Look, all players are proud. They don't want to go out there and get embarrassed. But you said, the Dolphins are in effort mode. I think they've been in effort mode already for about 3 weeks we're going to Cancun.
This is effort mode parentheses positive.
Yeah,
That's effort mode parentheses negative.
No, I mean, look, them getting rid of Chris Greer is not going to mean anything to any of the players except for the ones he paid. Right. And so I just think right now that Buffalo, this is more so on Buffalo. Are they going to come in saying, let's just go ahead and wipe them off and
Let's work on some things. Let's work on throwing the ball a little bit down the field.
Right.
A lot of their solutions, and they do look like a different team, are just like, hey, let's get the old guys back. Jordan Poyer's playing all the time. Matt Maloneau's back. Gabe Davis is on the practice squad.
Christian Benford, though, how good of a player?
He's really good. And you said how, the Dolphins, they're 1-1 in their last 2. Like, it's a small sample size. But since the bye, the Bills' defense, and I don't think this is a coincidence, since Sean McDermott started calling plays. I mean, I think that was he's gone out of his way to try to make it sound like he's not calling plays, and he's always crediting his coordinator. It's almost like he's doing too much to be like, no, it's all Bobby Babbage. It's all Bobby Babbage. But he's the one calling plays. 4th in EPA per play in those 2 weeks against the Panthers and the Chiefs. 2nd versus the pass. And the eyeball test, the pass rush is popping, and that's a great recipe against Miami. Joey Bosa looked incredible, although he's out of practice Wednesday. Fantasy owners, go get yourself some Ray Davis. It sounds like James Cook is like a 50-50 maybe to play in this game, which is surprising.
He's going home. He's playing.
You think so?
Yeah, he's playing. He's going back to Miami.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, for their long-term hopes, hopefully he's not selling out to beat the woeful Miami Dolphins.
This might be a good game to rest him, honestly. Like, I get that. I know he'll want to play, but and they need a little Ray Davis in the mix, see what they can scheme up with that guy, too.
The biggest red flag for this Miami team all season was Mike McDaniel basically openly admitting that they might bench Tua at some point. I can't believe that on Monday. Pretty soon after we got some reports from our guy Ian Rappaport that were similar. So I wonder what effect that has on everything and his quarterback.
What's your take, Steve?
It's not good. It's not. Look, I used to cover the Dolphins, and when things used to go south down there, hey man, it's not the most. It's a tough place to not be distracted as it is, and when you're not totally locked in. No, I think it's been over.
Dang.
I think it's. I said it on the show a couple weeks ago. It's over, man. It's been over.
On that note, let's take a little break. You should also check out Jourdan wrote an article about some potential general manager candidates down there in Miami.
For The Athletic.
Good names on that list. Jourdan Rodrigue of The Athletic. Remember we used to have to say that at the start of every show. But now she's part of NFL Daily too. We love you, Athletic, but we got her. the Carolina Panthers, a team that has burrowed itself deep into the heart of Jourdan Rodrigue,
Yeah.
did something in the first 9 games that not many teams in NFL history have done. I think it's only a couple, which is have a winning record, 5-4, despite being an underdog all 9 weeks. That is an arcane stat, but it is amazing. So I want to congratulate the Carolina Panthers for pulling that off, and now for being good enough not just to be a favorite, but to be a heavy favorite.
Yeah, we can't celebrate that stat in a more perfect time than right now, because the Carolina Panthers are at home at BOFA Stadium taking on the New Orleans Saints. It's Bank of America. I like to say BOFA. New Orleans at Carolina, 5.5-point favorites, 39.5. Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth on the call. Steve, we get another game of Tyler Shuck. What does Ejiro Evero's defense, it's like a quantum thing, or maybe the Bills were just that good? How do they look against the Saints?
First off, I don't like the 5.5 in a divisional game like this. I mean, I like the way Carolina's playing. Rico Dowdle did not practice, but they're saying they're just checking a few things out. So we'll see. It's a quad. Which is
He was working it for most of the second half.
Yeah.
He kept coming out of the game, and then the very next play he'd be back in popping one against the Packers.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't like the 5.5. I like Carolina to win. I like the Saints defense a little bit, because not only are you starting a rookie for the second time, you got rid of his most dangerous deep threat. Rashid Shaheed is now in Seattle, who I'm now super scared of if I'm anybody else in the NFC. So look, I think Carolina, they're starting to feel themselves a little bit, not in a smug type of way, but they know, hey, now we're starting to see some success of Dave Canales' message, and that is a dangerous drug. When guys start getting intoxicated by that, that's when they start getting that belief, and they think they can win ball games. So I think it's a very positive thing. I think the game would be closer. I like Carolina, though.
Especially when it's been so long since you've had that sort of feeling. I hope they have a good crowd there, like they did for that Bills game, and then it didn't go too well. But if you look at the rest of their schedule, these Saints games are big because you got to sweep them. They still have 2 Saints games to go, and the rest of their schedule has some challenging games. But if you can get those 2 Saints wins, and you're just kind of putting that onto their record here, then you're up to 7 wins. You just got to get 3 the rest of the way out of all those other games, and maybe you're in the dance and you're celebrating.
Wow,
and there's
there's
every reason to think they'll be able to do that against the just woeful Saints.
Especially if Rico Dowdle is banged up a little bit, or even not totally 100% and still plays, which he could very well do. And they have Chuba Hubbard, who's been great for them, who they love, and I think handled that whole thing pretty well in terms of starting out with a 2-back, and you pay a little respect to a guy like Chuba Hubbard in doing that, right? But then having the conversation with him and pulling him back to the number 2 spot, even if you're not at 100% Rico Dowdle, you are still going to have some steadiness there. A guy who's really solid contributor for you.
It gave him a nice contract.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that this, to me, screams, I want to see Bryce Young go out and own a team, honestly. I want to see him go out and do that, because the type of defense and the coverages that the Saints play, and they're in this zone look, and it can get a little cloudy and all of that. And Bryce Young this year has not played well against those types of zone looks. He actually has the 3rd lowest passer rating against this type of zone coverage that they play. So I really want to see Bryce Young and his cast of receivers and all of these guys who are building confidence with each other go out and actually dominate a team, not just have that fun, excitement, adrenaline rush of playing spoiler, which they have done so well this season. And I think that's the juice that kind of gets under your skin a little bit in a good way. I want them to take that next step forward and really say, no, we're going to come out and dominate you.
And this is the team to do it again.
Yes.
Versus because I know if you look at 11 of 20 for Bryce against the Green Bay Packers, and if you're just exclusively living in the stat sheet, you would think, oh, well, he didn't really do too much. But I think that game is harder, where you get that few attempts, like the vast majority coming on 3rd down in gotta-have-it situations, like 3 of those passes thrown on the final drive. Where you have to get into field goal range, and you're working against the clock and trying to manage that, try not to leave Jordan Love and the Packers too much time. Like, there's so many things that go on in that situation versus here against the Saints, where you're not having to worry
Yeah, they can't score.
about keeping the Saints offense
Right.
off the field. And you can get Leggett involved in situations where that was the interception that came. And in fact, as Jourdan pointed out, like when Bryce turns the ball over, 3 of his 6 have been against cover 3 here in 2025. Like, so the Saints run a lot of it. So time to work on everything, and this is the place to work on them against.
Saints are extremely limited offensively. They trade Trevor Penning too on top of Rashid Shaheed. I mean, Penning isn't great, but he was starting.
Snuck that one
He
under
was
the deadline.
he was starting at guard.
You
He
want
was-
Trevor Penning? Sure.
I actually
Hey,
was.
real quick off air. Brian Baldinger. Build some Baldy secrets. Who on film has watched Trevor Penning? Who feels that you want to give up a draft pick for him?
I was surprised that wasn't like a swap. Yeah, they gave up a 7th. Jim Harbaugh says, by the way, we'll get to the Chargers, but he's going to play tackle there, not guard. I thought he'd look better at guard.
What could go
Well,
wrong?
they don't have any tackle.
They don't have any tackles. I watched the Saints finally this morning. I thought Tyler Shuck played pretty well. When I'm saying like Michael Penix, give me something, I just mean like 3 or 4 plays a game where you're like, okay, Tyler Shuck had about 4 or 5 throws in that game. I was like, okay, there's something there. And it was such a limited, weird game where their defense just got absolutely destroyed. Yep. And he was throwing short of the sticks a couple times, probably like he was being told to do on 3rd and long. But it's a lot of like run, throw a slant on 3rd and 7. But once he got to throw a few passes, it looked okay. And I think it's got to look okay because to me, this is a big week for the Saints after getting blown out a couple times. At some point, we can point out that Kellen Moore is giving us on Sundays and on the field about what he's given us in press conferences, which is just a whole lot of nothing. Like,
What was he supposed to do?
that's the thing.
came
Everyone's
into the
going to
season-
say that, but if you're a good coach, show me something.
He's got the
It's
worst
pretty.
roster in the NFL.
He just seems very
The Saints Block Party
uninspiring.
podcast has been on this beat for a few weeks now, just watching him closely on the sideline, and there's just not a lot of emotion or
What are you trying to do? Just show me something. Just show me what
like,
is.
you don't need to go full
Kellen Moore about?
Dable. You don't have to go full Dable, right?
I'm not talking about yelling. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like, what are you trying to accomplish? What are we doing here? That's all. I don't know. Have some sort of stamp.
They're setting things up for 20.
Not
Yeah,
on,
and
not on
Steve-
purpose.
They're
Steve's
doing.
like, with who?
Yeah, but not on
Yeah.
purpose. Mickey Loomis is trying to keep his job, and I don't think like they can move forward as an organization as long as he
There's
has it.
No way he's
That's what everyone keeps saying.
because they would not have made a hire like this with a roster like this. They cleaned out nobody. After Derek Carr announced his retirement, they could have cleaned the deck, and they didn't. So they knew the season had a very high probability of going this way.
They
What are we? 9.
still had
Excuse me. It was 10 before.
that was Mickey. Look, they could have traded even more guys. They're not even. They didn't. I don't think they were trying to tank. It just is finally working out that way for them. And Kellen Moore might be. Who is that coach in the Sixers who just had to sit through the process? Brett Brown, I believe it was. He might be like the Brett Brown of the Saints because he's going to be gone by the time they have a good team again.
Which is why we should abolish the draft. Anyway, let's go to our next game.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns are 2.5-point favorites at the team that traded everybody, the New York Jets. The over-under is 37.5. It's a game on CBS. Spiro Didis and Adam Archuleta, they're on the call. We get Dylan Gabriel taking on a Jets defense that is losing some big names because they're going to be playing elsewhere, Greg. How do you see it going?
I like the Jets coming off a high of not only winning the game, which I really must feel like helped their building quite a bit, but weirdly a high of the trade deadline. I think these trades, and this isn't for the team on the field necessarily, but I think it's for the fans. It's going to give everyone some hope. And I don't think that's worth something. I actually think the fans are going to look at what happened on Tuesday, Monday, and with good reason feel like, okay, at least you know what you're doing. You have these picks over the next 2 years. Your first 2 picks this year look pretty good, and so that's the picks you really got to hit on. You have 2 good tackles. You have a number 1 receiver. You have a couple young defensive players who are still there that are good players. Jermaine Johnson didn't get traded. There was a report that the 49ers wanted him, but they wouldn't give up a second for him. And I was like, okay, the Jets had their price. They weren't just going to give away good players for the sake of it. And I think they made a decision on Sauce Gardner that he wasn't quite that dude. I think if Aaron Glenn really believed like this is the guy to build around, like they wouldn't have traded him. But for the right price, they were going to trade him. and they got the right price. So
What did they ever?
I think they did get a great price on both the guys. So I like that they have a direction.
I think that Jermaine Johnson coming out and being so emphatic about wanting to stay a Jet and wanting to be a Jet, which he made some comments because it was very out there that he was on, like he was someone teams were calling about, particularly the 49ers. That also gives them something. Because remember last offseason when Quinnen Williams, and I hope that he has, I hope he thrives in Dallas. We talked about this earlier this week. Love that move for both sides. But Quinnen Williams was like, okay, here we go, another rebuild. You're not going to put that guy through yet another rebuild, which they're clearly going to be doing with all those draft picks after this season, right? And you're keeping a guy who's vocal about wanting to be there, and I think all of these in combination gives them a little bit of juice. This is every game's a dangerous game for the Cleveland Browns, but this is a dangerous game just off energy alone. This is a team that's ascending towards something that has a plan that clearly is showing that they have a vision versus a team that has been in pure chaos for years and still is.
The Jets were favored in this game before the trades, and then it flipped around, which is
weird,
odd to me.
but
I want to see Aaron Glenn do a little magic like Dan Campbell did his first season. Just be respectable and competitive.
The fact that it flipped tells me that they think that John Judkins going to do something in the run game. So that's all I can see, because I'm with you. I think the Jets, it's probably a pretty feel good. The players are like, well, everyone thinks we're going to suck. It's going to be horrible. Let's go out there.
Yeah, we'll show you. Yeah.
Nobody believed in us.
I mean, I just think, like you're saying, Jermaine Johnson wanted to stay. Where did Aaron Glenn come from? From Detroit, where nobody wanted to be. Then they found guys who wanted to stay, and that's how they built. That's a good point. So
yeah,
I think they have different leadership from the top in Detroit, which is very important to the way that their success has gone. But we get it now. When Woody Johnson said, hey, our quarterback stinks, but I'm not worried about Aaron Glenn, he knew exactly what they were doing. What they were getting ready to do.
And I think all those things in terms of the feel and the place where you go with how you feel, but you summon, Tom Berenger as Jake Taylor, where,
yes.
The Cleveland at that time, they're still rocking the slur name, where it's like, okay, there's only one thing left to do. Win the whole thing.
Right.
But,
yes,
the Super Bowl is not necessarily in the question.
Just maybe this one game. Yeah. Let's just try this.
How about a home game?
Yeah.
One home game.
Home game.
You got all the things. You got disrespect from the top. You got people doubting you. Go out there and beat a team that's been weird on offense. Let's be honest. The Cleveland Browns have been weird on offense for a while since they fraudulently decided to not start Jacoby Brissett. That's where it all went. And you get that guy in as opposed to playing.
All roads lead back to Jacoby.
And so,
and Joe Flacco.
If there's a place for the Jets to win again and feel good, it feels like it's there at MetLife on Sunday.
And they've got Breece Hall still, and
Garrett Wilson.
They've got Garrett Wilson
Got
and
a tight end, young tight end.
Aaron Glenn has not. The thing I want to see a little bit is, can he coach defense a little bit? Because those defenses in Detroit, they were pretty rough early.
Yeah,
and they got better. And this Jets defense has been rough. Why don't we listen to Aaron Glenn talking about Breece Hall, how he didn't move?
Well, I think I've said this many a times over and over, that Breece is not a guy I want to get rid of. I mean, he's a damn good player. And any of those whatever you say came out, I don't know what you're talking about. The only thing I know is I've said that over and over again. So I don't think there's anything new to you guys.
The franchise tag, unfortunately for Breece Hall, is a good bargain actually for NFL teams. Just a kick it down the road. Wouldn't surprise if he was there. And this game may not feel like it matters much in the standings, but if you're into Tankathon, this game is pretty big in terms of angling. And these are the two of the teams that each have extra first-round picks. Yeah. So they're both going to be very active in this draft, and so it's all for positioning, and that's why
we should abolish the draft, because we have multiple fan bases cheering for their teams.
They're
to lose.
not.
For who?
I think the fans are all rooting for them to win. It's been so miserable. They want to win.
You guys want to hear a crazy stat I just pulled from Next Gen just
Please.
To lighten the mood? Won't really lighten the mood.
Well, it's light.
Okay, Myles Garrett has a 16.2% pressure rate this season. Okay, which is 15th highest in the NFL. So good, not great for him. It's his third lowest since at least 2018. So even if he's playing like a top 15 pass rusher, it's his own personal third worst, which just shows you how good he is and how good he can be. And oh my God, once again, I hate this for him.
And he's just racking up sacks. And I think
and he's converting on 30% of his pressure into sacks. Yeah,
here's the other
insane.
part. It's not like they're playing with a lead and the other team's throwing the ball for it.
Yeah, which makes this even more
Which
insane.
is why he's so good. He's had to do it year after.
But guys, internet guy says, hey, the team that you play for loses and you can't be upset about it because they're paying you. So stop caring, Myles Garrett.
Always
I'm
listen to internet guy. That's my
coming off a
motto.
bye.
I am internet.
I like it when both teams coming off a bye. So big game. Jets, Browns. What a way to finish our early games. Stay right here. And by here, I mean this podcast feed. Look, if you're watching on YouTube, actually, there's no stop at all. Let's talk about the late games. Ooh, we got some bangers in the afternoon and primetime games.
Ooh.
Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're ready to listen to Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on one of the games of the year. We've been needing a good primetime game lately. I know we had Packers Steelers, but I just feel like they've been wanting.
Yeah, and we want football. And we want you to listen to the best of NFL Daily. Because if you're listening to us and you didn't hear the first half of the show, you could have heard stuff like this.
Booty is massive. Is that really what I sound like?
Yeah.
Greg, I regret to inform you.
Hear that again? Booty is massive. I mean, didn't lie.
Well, my favorite part of the audio was you said sneakily first.
Yeah.
Where it's like the
Yeah.
The
that happens
idea
sometimes.
There, is you're not expecting it, but
yeah, sometimes it happens. You're just like, oh,
booty's massive.
Booty is massive.
Got all that back there.
Didn't know what was happening.
We got all this ahead of us. Yes, Greg referenced it. The Philadelphia Eagles on the road at Green Bay, where the Packers just lost to the Carolina Panthers. The Packers favored against the defending Super Bowl champions by 2.5. The over-under is 45.5. It is Joe. It is Troy. And Jourdan Rodrigue, It's an opportunity for us to see the Philadelphia Eagles after taking a break. It's like all that consternation week in and week out. We're delving through Instagram. The Eagles just disappeared. Now they're back.
It's like it never even happened. Patrick, as Saquon Barkley said, they all got away from each other for a little bit. And hey, guess what? Just like the local media there has been saying all year, A.J. Brown did not get traded. Wow. Always read the beat writers, guys. They've got a great group on the ground there in Philadelphia. This game is going to be good. Packers need to bounce back in a big way. This team is too talented to be playing as inconsistently game over game as it is. And the Eagles, after a break and gathering themselves and a deep breath, we know they're going to come out swinging.
Yep.
I'm curious what kind of adjustments the Eagles have in store on defense. They're coming off the bye week. They added the cornerbacks, Michael Carter, Jair Alexander. They add, the edge players, including Brandon Graham is back in the mix. Jalen Phillips should be available. And just how does that work? How are they using Jihad Campbell, who wasn't on the field as much, but that might have just been a 1 week thing. You learn a lot, as we've said on this show, of how you operate after the bye. And I did think it was noteworthy that without A.J. Brown, I thought they had their best game plan of the season in that last win before we last saw them, where they were running everything finally. They had a little bit of Atlanta Falcons disease where it was they're just doing one thing at a time. And in that game, they showed all their different ways that they like to pass the ball, very diverse running game. And if they can bring that to the Packers, I think they'll be up for the fight. It's a tough matchup.
I think they're going to do that. I think we're going to start, Baker Mayfield said now some real football starts. I think we're going to see that with the Philadelphia Eagles. My big concern for Green Bay is the best tight end in football is out for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker Kraft is that guy. When you talk to defensive coordinator, he scares them because he can block, he can catch, and he can run after the catch. When you hear the comparisons to Gronk, that's what you hear people saying. So not having him really puts a lot of pressure on an inconsistent wide receiver group. And so I think this is going to change their offense, and I think it's going to change their running game. And so I like Philadelphia in this game. And for now, with the Packers, as good as they may be, their defensive front didn't look that great. That might have been a one-game aberration. But they're going to have to tighten it up and going to go up against an Eagles offensive line that's not been as great. It's been good. It's going to be interesting, but I just think Green Bay's offense is going to have to be restructured a little bit because Musgrave is not.
And nobody is.
And nobody is. Like he is that guy right now in the NFL.
And it's a difficult plan to emulate when you looked at how the Carolina Panthers ran all over Green Bay.
Yep.
Because it was Rico Dowdle is one of the more imaginative runners inside that
well
we've seen
said.
in a while. And he had 4 yards of carry, inside left and inside right, and 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball 19 times on the inside, where we've seen Philadelphia struggle to run on the inside. They got Saquon out on the edge on the first play, on the first run of the game against the Giants, but that sustained success hasn't been there. So I'm not even sure that the Eagles' run game, like as good as it was last year, can duplicate what Carolina did in Green Bay. But on the outside, where the coverage has been good, you have AJ and Devontae, where it's not a similar talent situation, and that's why like the idea of trading AJ Brown, because anybody that's trading for AJ Brown,
I think we all love the idea of it. Yeah,
They're going to be better.
love the idea of it.
They'll
Yeah.
be better.
like anybody that wants AJ Brown is you're end up playing them in February.
Yes.
like at some point. That's but beyond me that people would think that was going to happen. But the style's making the fights here, and I still don't know who I'm going to pick, Greg.
I don't either because
I like
this
the Eagles in
I
this.
feel like everyone will be on the Eagles, which, I just then think, well, it is a home game for the Packers that they could bounce back. The way they lose in these games are so mystifying. Like they didn't punt last week. That is hard to lose a game where and only
ball over.
score that much, but also just losing it on downs a couple times. I think critical mass hit last week of the Packers running the ball too much. And it was partly because Greg Olsen said it on the broadcast, but also
Your friend.
I think, my buddy. I think it's because you watch them and they want to be a great running team, and they're just okay, and they're just slow. Like they slow the game down, but you don't want to slow the game down when you're the better team. They take forever. Just like pick it up a little bit. I think make it a little bit more of Jordan Love's show than these 13, 14, 15 play drives. And that's part of it is, you're just missing on the throws to Golden. We'll see if he's available. Jaden Reed has been gone so long we kind of forget that he's gone, but he's a really important player for them. And that's part of it. For that fourth down that we nominated for worst throw of the year, here were the skill position players on the field. Emmanuel Wilson, Malik Heath, Savion Williams, Romeo Dobbs, and John Fitzpatrick. I mean, that's a pretty rough group. That's not very talented. It's just not a talented group.
I think this might be the game that you've been wanting for Jordan Love, honestly, because if you, first of all, missing Tucker.
Big QB Island spot this
Big
week. For him.
QB Island game for Jordan
For both.
Love.
Well, not really. Hurts.
Potentially, after 2 weeks ago, had such a defining, incredible game. And then last week, the Packers were just not good enough. And so, because I think that without having Tucker Kraft, who wowed everyone with his yards after the catch running and his ability to just carve out the middle of the field and played incredibly before the injury, also is one of the best blocking attachments to an offensive line in football. And that's part of why they felt so confident running the ball. Luke Musgrave is more of a pure passing mismatch tight end. So I don't think you're going to be able to do the plotting run game the way that maybe they had. I do think that you're going to lean on where you actually have a strength, even minus your massive Jenga piece in Tucker Kraft, and that is try to formulate and force passing mismatches. And it's tough to do against this Eagles secondary, but they are more vulnerable than they had been last season. And this is going to be really, really interesting to me. Especially, is Jair going to play? Is this a revenge game?
Ooh.
I don't know if he's going to play.
I would assume that they.
The Packers hope so.
Yeah, right?
I would assume they traded him with the idea to have him active on game days and participate.
Does he go out for the coin toss against the Packers? Just autonomous.
Whether he's supposed to or not.
Let's do it again.
What I do?
Flashback.
Whoa.
Great call on the
Great
spot.
pull.
Incredible work.
Wow.
I love it.
I do think we saw some of that frustration of trying to be explosive in the run game for LaFleur when Savion Williams fumbled, and then LaFleur was yelling at him on the sideline. I think that was the frustration of not being explosive in the run game, and then you try to get the ball to Savion Williams in the run game, and he fumbles it.
Kind of over the whole Savion Williams thing, too. In general, like guys that you use as gadget guys, it has diminishing returns. Here's a little news that involves the Packers, by the way. He is visiting, Asante Samuel Jr. is visiting the Packers among many other teams. And he's just an interesting player that could be added to the mix. Was quite high on my free agency list based on, his play, which is a little up and down, but pretty good at a high level. But he had spinal fusion surgery this offseason and was finally cleared to play this week. And he's visiting the Panthers, Packers, Vikings, 49ers, Bears, and Steelers. I mean, I've never heard of a visit list that long. It probably won't go that far.
They all want to check the medical and see if it fits their personal specs. A lot of times, guys will show up and give the diagnostics to a team. They're like, no, we want our doctors to check you because there are some teams that have a sleep at night policy. Like, can we sleep well at night putting a player on the field?
Yes.
And there are other teams that do not. And so I think that's why he's visiting so many teams.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to pick a spot which could be best for him.
Or whichever one has the immortal chamber right now.
I would I would ask, like, hey, can I get you guys all in one place? Like getting poked and prodded like 7 different times, like after sitting on multiple planes. Like I already had back.
But that's why teams want to get guys after they've been poked and prodded 3 or 4 times to see how durable that is. That is a technique in the combine. Like, give me an injured player after he's worked out for 3 teams because I want to see how durable that thing is.
Well, you get good veteran teammates, and then you get ones that set you up with incredible segues, like Chambers, like quarterbacks that play in Southern California. It is Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams, Steve, 4.5-point favorites against the team that beat them at their best in SoFi on Thursday Night Football. The San Francisco 49ers playing host. 49.5 is the over-under. Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. It is the Fox Uno to see Mac Jones once again starting for the 49ers. How do you see it going?
How are the Rams a 4.5-point favorite? That's a big number.
I mean, they've outscored the teams they've played since playing the 49ers 84-20.
I mean, fine, but you look at these matchups, they tend not to go like this. Look, the Rams outplayed them at SoFi, but the giveaways. I mean, some of the punch outs, some of the players who stepped up for the 49ers, and Christian McCaffrey has been the bane of the Rams' existence. Look at his numbers against the Rams, even when he was in Carolina. He averages about 150 combined yards against them in passing and receiving. He touches the ball. I was looking at this yesterday, like 24 times or more against the Rams. They can't find a matchup against them. I know the Niners defense might be, banged up or whatever. It plays well against the Rams. I'm not saying the Rams are going to lose this game. Just 4.5 points is a huge number, especially with the Rams' great kicking issues that they've had this year. Look, Mac Jones.
No Cardi party for you.
No.
They signed the thicker kicker is on the practice squad this week.
Oh, there we go.
Competition.
Where's the big booty drop? We missed that one. Set it up right there.
Is massive.
There it is. There it is. Look, I like the Rams, which I think whoever wins this game, it can't be the Niners if you're the Rams, because then they've swept you. They've got tiebreaker.
Yeah, you can't
here for you. So,
and they beat Seattle once.
Yeah, I actually like San Francisco in this game just because the McCaffrey factor.
Whoa.
Kyle Shanahan's having probably his best year coaching, honestly, and that's saying something considering some of the monster teams that he's coached. And Robert Saleh is putting on an absolute clinic.
He is.
They're more and more injured every week. And I think that becomes the biggest threat factor to me if you're thinking about these matchups between the Rams and the 49ers and how strange they can get and how in their own heads the Rams can get against the 49ers at times. I just don't think this goes that way. This Rams team on 2 of 3 phases, offense and defense, is such a wagon.
Yes.
I mean, their offense is just rolling over people, through people, past them in the air. Their offensive line is finally all back together again. Rob Havenstein being back last week was huge. The time to pressure went way up time-wise versus quick pressure that sometimes can get to Stafford and forces the shorter completions. Puka Nakua's ribs injury is concerning. I would imagine they have one eye on This game, obviously, always going to play physical against the 49ers. But they probably also have one eye on next week, which is the Seattle game.
Woo.
Their first time that the two teams have played each other. So you really have to manage this correctly if you're Sean McVay and the Rams. And I think part of why they were able to go so heavy personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel.
You love that.
Oh, man.
You love that with the Rams.
I said some
Give
things.
me 2 tight ends. Give me 3.
It's finally happened.
Let's go some
I
21.
freaking leave the building, and they finally freaking do it. Yeah, and I think that bodes well for playing a different style of offense as you give Puka maybe a little bit less of a workload.
It was interesting that they alternated drives between their running backs, finally doing the thing that they say that they were going to do between Blake Corum. And Corum adds a little more explosion. I just think Stafford versus a team that can't rush the passer, you're almost drawing dead if you're the 49ers. And they probably will get Bryce Huff back this week, which is a big addition, but they're also losing Michael Williams. He's gone for the season. Not much of a pass rusher there, but like one of the reasons why when I was splitting hairs, I know I made you mad and I didn't choose Stafford
You never make me mad.
for MVP, was just his numbers clean. I mean, they're insane. He is the best quarterback in the league this year. His numbers versus pressure are actually quite poor. He reminds me a little bit of Tom Brady in his later years, and this is a compliment. He's no longer hanging in quite as much to take those big hits because he's playing the long game, and he's just dirt and balls now. And so his numbers, yards per if you get this 49ers team, they're not going to get pressure on him. Newsflash, it's not going to happen in this game. Well, I think they smoke him.
Teams are sitting pressure from depth at the second highest rate against the Rams.
That's a great stat. That's a great stat.
You just try to mess with the picture for Matthew Stafford a little bit, but you got to get it early with Stafford, or else you're in trouble. Where you've get in this situation where Devontae Adams is this red zone tight end target.
Savant.
Well, they're getting their tight ends involved in the passing game some too. So.
And so there's so many different places where you could say, well, the history, Kyle Shanahan figures it out. Maybe Kyron will get the ball punched out on the 1-inch line again. Like it's hard based using the logical mindset to say that the 49ers are going to win this.
Yeah, the inferior division team, they pull off one upset. They don't do it twice.
They used.
I've seen. Jourdan.
I know, but it wasn't.
Man, it's
guys,
like too many times.
It'll be close.
I think the Rams win, but these games get so weird.
Yeah, they do.
And they feel weird. And being in the building all week feels weird. It's just like it's everyone's tight.
Hopefully, Mac Jones has a standard gait by the end of this game.
I know,
Never.
poor dude.
He's not
Never
punched over.
He's so extra with everything. I love it.
And I think we wanted to get to a Throw of the Year nomination, right, Greg?
Oh yeah, let's.
Yeah, we have video of
see.
the deep dig that
while we're talking
I wrote a whole poem about this throw last week.
Stafford, and yeah, if you're on YouTube,
look at his helmet, because there's Devontae running the deep dig. There's Stafford. Who's he looking at? Not you.
Very similar to the throw in the Super Bowl to Cooper Kupp.
It's beautiful, but here's the thing: doing that on a intermediate to deep depth route takes a level of confidence in oneself that not many human beings have.
It's also disrespectful. Can we be honest? It's a 30-yard pass down the field.
Yeah.
Okay, but look at how deep the linebackers dropped.
Yeah, but he did it in the Super Bowl. It wasn't quite as
But
deep.
it wasn't this deep.
It wasn't that deep, but it was pretty deep.
It was like a 12-yard pass.
I'm just saying. It is disrespectful, but so is every celebration.
No.
So's it's the quarterback version of holding out the ball while you're running towards the end zone. It's just adding a little sizzle to your Sunday.
This is why it's disrespectful. Those linebackers drop like 20 yards each. You got a runner with Devontae, and he just springs it to him.
When I put this game on this morning,
look at the depth of the linebacker.
I think it's a strong one.
It's so sick.
And the crazy thing is, it wasn't. I mean, it was the best throw he made all day, but his deep one to Puka was almost as good. He's feeling himself, and I just think the 49ers, look, they're not getting, weirdly, we talked so much about their rookie class earlier in the season, and now they lost Michael Williams. Stout, their nickel, has been a little up and down, and the other guys, like the defense, they're not helping. They're not playing. There's injuries. They're just a thin team, and they're trying their best. I think the most symbolic play I have, I should have made this a Play of the Year nominee, is last week with a 17-point lead. I think it was McCaffrey, might have been Brian Robinson, was trying to pick up a short yardage situation. It doesn't look like he's going to get it. And Mac Jones, who's all disheveled and everything's all messed up and his face is busted, he runs in there and he lowers his shoulder to push the pile forward. And I'm like, Mac Jones is out there living life. I love it.
Football player.
That's awesome.
So see if Mac Jones can do it again against the Los Angeles Rams. Let's go to some Sunday night football. Gregg Rosenthal, the Pittsburgh Steelers, fresh off of thrashing. Once again, one of the best teams in the AFC are on the road to SoFi Stadium to take on Herbo and the tackleless Chargers, who are a 3-point favorite. 45.5 is the over-under. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, the entire gang on NBC. Do you need tackles to beat the Steelers?
I think that would be helpful.
That would help.
Yes.
What a question.
Not sure if Bobby Hart, who
You need oxygen.
it's crazy, like, I hope we can get Bobby Hart back. He was like literally their 5th tackle and was like didn't make the Bengals at one point. But he got hurt during last week's game too. So hearing that Penning is going to be at tackle and against this team in particular, it's not like the Chargers major in a quick passing game. Like, despite all these offensive line injuries, like Herbert's back there, he's holding the ball and he's trying to make plays and he is making plays. I felt bad not listing him in the MVP conversation because I do think just he is playing as well as any other quarterback.
Insane.
And you just think about him versus Herbig and Watt, and Highsmith was probably their best edge guy last week. One thing I noticed was a couple of the plays that Highsmith and Watt got off, it was because Herbig got doubled, which is a very interesting wrinkle at their stage of development, but it just shows how many weapons they have.
But Herbig's been, a high volume pressure guy for years. I mean, he's a heck of a player. And I think somebody got into Watt and the Highsmith and said, it's time we start earning your money here. We got to get, maybe it was Cam Hayward because he was been very strong against those guys. The guys who are getting paid showed up last week. This is an intriguing matchup because Arthur Smith would love this because there's a tight end on the Chargers I'm sure he would love to have on his team, Jourdan Gadsden Jr. I think he's going to be the threat for the Chargers in this game. There's got to be some type of quick outlet passing game, even though they don't have it. They don't really have a matchup because their edge guys are forward-going guys. They don't really have a dude to match up with Gadsden. So I think he is going to be a factor big time in this game. I like Pittsburgh in this game. I think Aaron Rodgers is starting to play better football. Some interesting storylines in this game. I just want to see if Pittsburgh can keep it up. But the Chargers without those offensive tackles, to me, is a significant issue.
Two unpredictable teams.
I'm super curious, especially with what the Steelers did to the Colts tackles, like you noted on the recap show this week, Greg. I'm really interested to see if the Steelers play Jourdan Gadsden the same way they played Tyler Warren, and that was pulled Jalen Ramsey back to the deep safety position and mix up your zone pressures to really and get that pressure, especially on the outsides, to really mix up the quarterback and kind of know where the quarterback is looking. It's really hard to mix up Justin Herbert, and obviously he will make plays with his legs, but it is curious because this Chargers offense being able to funnel through a mismatched tight end the way that the Colts offense is also able to do. I'm curious to see if they deploy a similar game plan because that one was so effective to the tune of 6 takeaways.
And it does sound like Ramsey's just playing free safety now. And not like they said it's going to be permanent, but he said he's there this week. And they have injuries. It's easy to forget. They lost to Sean Elliott. They lost, I think, Chuck Clark it was. And he's just playing free safety. It is weird that he's essentially playing Minkah Fitzpatrick's role. Like, that trade just seems...
But it's something, though, he's wanted to do for years.
Yeah,
he talks about his affinity for Charles Woodson and making that change. And
let's be real, like, he was not playing well in man coverage. And even last week where they did play, the split safeties a lot more, they looked different. They still played the Colts more man coverage than any other team had all year because that's what their cornerbacks can do. And I think you look at these matchups for the Chargers, that's the thing. If Justin Herbert can play offensive line for himself by just running around and making it happen, and he had to do it even against the Titans, then, man, there are mismatches with Ladd and with Gadsden and with Quentin Johnston, like, against the Steelers secondary.
Well, fortunately for Justin Herbert, he's got one of the best pass-protecting running backs in the entire NFL, in Kamani Vidal.
Yes.
Back there where, he's he's making plays in the pass game again, whether catching the ball or blocking for Herbo, and I think they're going to need it. It's going to be Herbo out on the edge.
Yeah.
Make Highsmith miss. You have Ladd and QJ come back to the ball, have Gatson work the middle, and just Justin figure it out. It's going to be quarters of that versus the Steelers kind of plodding their way down the field, scoring a predictable 22 points.
Yeah, they have really gone extreme in terms of the ball coming out of Rodgers' hand so quickly and it being short, but I don't think they'll need to throw it that much. The Chargers are 27th against the run, and so you think of those jumbo packages and Darnell Washington and all the tight ends. Jaylen Warren. Like, the Chargers are not a good run defense. I'm a little stunned the Chargers are favored by 3 in this game. My take on the Chargers is that they've actually overachieved quite a bit this year based on what's the real level of where they should be.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's clear.
My colleague Daniel Popper at The Athletic actually wrote 2 sentences that I think are really depressing but really well written, where he said, the ceiling for this season caved in when Alt was lost for the year.
True.
Trading for Penning is the equivalent of cleaning up the rubble. Oh, it hurts.
It does. And yet, because
but it hurts.
Because it's Herbert back there, they are a must-watch every week, and with the weapons that he has, and you give him a chance in a game where I trust the Chargers coaching just a little bit more than I do the Steelers. Steelers, you never know what you're going to get. That's true of the games we will talk about after the break. We have almost made it to the end of our Week 10 preview. Back on NFL Daily, big week in terms of news. The future of this country getting shaped, but that wasn't the biggest news. The biggest news was that Tom Brady revealed his dog, Junie, was cloned from a previous dog that he owned back in 2023. And the first thing I thought about when I learned not only did Tom Brady clone his dog, but that he's an investor of the company that cloned his dog, I wanted to hear what Patrick thought about that.
Well, it's a similar thing that you've heard me say every single time we, for some reason, find out about Tom Brady's most recent investment, which is every single time that Tom Brady has money going on in something, it becomes news. And Tom is at the forefront of seemingly every circumstance that I, personally, I'm not a money guy. I know very little about everything. Every time we find out about some tech thing, it's Tom Brady is there. And sometimes
it doesn't work too well.
And it's maybe it's a fad. Maybe there's a pickleball league coming on. Maybe it's some crypto thing, but it seems like it's always Tom.
Well, the crypto pickleball Venn diagram is just like a circle. It's everyone.
Yes.
It's all together. My bigger thing though is you are all dog owners, I believe.
I used to.
You're not anymore.
I can't take it. So
okay, but you I'm just. What are your thoughts on what would you clone Tucker, your dog, Jourdan?
Well, it wouldn't be Tucker.
Well, yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah.
It's like, there's only one Tucker. It's my Tucker, and that wouldn't be Tucker.
Yeah, that's the same exact space where I am, like in a spiritual sense.
Yes.
I do believe in individuality.
And I believe animals have souls, and that it wouldn't be Tucker.
And they can't talk, and they can't necessarily consent to anything. So it's a lot of the same way I feel about quote unquote AI or plagiarism machines, especially when somebody is no longer with us. They don't have the ability to say whether or not they want this thing. And so hopefully, Tom's pup would have wanted this.
Let the Venn diagram also between people who clone their dogs and ChatGPT users also close into a circle.
And keep it away from me. Still like these last couple games of the week. I'm curious if the Lions are going to bounce back.
And we'll see if there's a team we expect to bounce back. It is Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions. And the odds makers feel like they will. They are 8.5-point favorites over Marcus Mariota and the Washington Commanders, as we are hoping for a return at some point for Jaden Daniels with that dislocated elbow. The over-under is 49.5 points. Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma, they're on the call, Jourdan, as the Lions got beat. They got beat. Dan Campbell acknowledged it. There's any number of places where they could have improved. Do they play better against a defense that's had some issues recently?
Well, that's putting it lightly, Patrick, because the Washington Commanders came into this season, I think, a huge concern and question mark on the defensive side of the ball, the oldest defense in the league, and immediately did nothing to soften anyone's fears about them. And now they're banged up. They've got players that, they got guys that are hurt. Their linebackers are not playing the way that they expect from the caliber or the reputation of those linebackers. Their plans for some of their players is mystifying to me, Steve. I know we've talked a lot about that. And I think that the Lions are probably pissed off and they're looking to roll. And I think they will.
I think they have real questions that we aren't going to really get answered in this game because they're just too good.
Yeah.
But Colton Pouncey, your colleague at The Athletic, had some numbers that supported something that was in my head too, is like eye test wise, they don't quite look the same on offense. And he did have some numbers to back it up, that they are 16th in explosive play rate. They are 12th in overall offensive success rate. And they're 26th in terms of their rushing success. All three of those numbers last year were top 2 in the league in terms of offense. So they have put up some big scoring numbers. They've had moments where they've looked good, but they haven't been as consistent. And I think it's that interior line.
It is.
And they also lost Christian Mahogany for a while. Maybe not the season, but he's a starter and he's going to be out. And Taylor Decker is talking about retirement at the end of the year and trying to just fight through one last year. And he picked up another injury. He's had a shoulder problem that I think might make this his last year. And now he has a knee injury on top of that. Him and Penei Sewell were both out on Wednesday out of practice. So just some concerning signs.
And Taylor Decker it's kind of like not Joe Noteboom. Who's Roger Saffold was the Rams a couple years ago, where he's basically held together by like tape and willpower. And so the offensive line has not been as dominant. And remember, they lost some guys in the offseason too. But against the Commanders, Marshawn Lattimore is out for the season. He wasn't playing great anyway. They've got nobody to generate pass pressure. They went out, the players that they signed on the defensive front were run stoppers because they were getting gashed on first down by the run last year. So you want to solidify the run and then come up and be creative on second and third and known passing situations. But now teams aren't in known passing downs. So this is a game where Detroit should have its way putting points on the board. And Washington wasn't stopping anybody anyway. Joe, we talked about Frankie Louvu. They're having to use him on the edge to create pressure. That's created gaps all over the middle of the defense in the run and passing games. They're just throwing stuff, out there to see what they can do because of all the beat up personnel they have defensively.
It's because when you do that with an inside linebacker as frequently as they're doing it with Frankie Louvu, it becomes mathematically appealing for an opposing offensive coordinator to say, okay, I'm going to make it so you only have 11 players on the field because you're just going to waste that guy's rush. You're going to find a way to get him, tilt the play away from him or block him up or chip or do something. And then you're able to say, okay, now who am I going to, because you only have technically 11 now in my math, who am I going to target? Who am I going to circle? Who am I going to block out of the play? And a lot of times, too, it's been the other linebacker. A lot of times they're blocking.
Which is Bobby Wagner. That he's getting doubled and getting sealed.
He's getting doubled and he's getting sort of pushed out of the play because, again, they have this mathematical advantage. And teams are able to key in on these things. And when you have a concern like that in the middle of your defense, you have nothing.
And real quick, Frankie Louvu, he is playing this weekend. His hip drop tackle suspension got overturned. He's being fined $100,000, but he's going to be able to play this week.
I thought it was interesting the Commanders didn't make any trades at the deadline. There was some reporting that they were talking Debo or Von Miller potentially to the Bills. That was from Tim Graham, but that never happened. They could have been sellers. Some of the teams that didn't make any trades I thought were telling. Like the 49ers not trying to trade too hard for anyone. It was kind of like maybe they're accepting their fate. The Commanders didn't become sellers, but I think they know where they are for the rest of the year.
Boy, you're going to be talking compensatory draft pick when you look at
especially with Debo,
yeah.
And so it maybe gives a little insight into how they view their roster construction long term. Maybe not as much like the way they view their hopes this season. But, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw the Elijah Arroyo touchdown where it's a similar thing where the Commanders have given up the third most completions on vertical routes all season long. And Jared Goff's been throwing them actually more than he did in the Ben Johnson era where we saw the late touchdown to Jamison Williams on a vertical route. So maybe the Lions get a chance to to work on that.
Increase that metric and get explosive plays.
Yeah, get the explosive plays by maybe Isaac Tesla gets another.
Yeah, let's go. Get in there.
Two hands
Get
on
J
the
Mo
ball.
up.
Go.
Yeah, I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them close a game early on because I really want the opportunity to say the offensive coordinator Morton salting away a game.
Oh, hey.
I'll leave. I will leave now. Actually, I'll actually.
No, don't go anywhere, Jourdan, because we got another game.
Last one.
We've got our last game, and it's the best team, I'll say it, in the NFL right now.
Yes.
Playing host to Jacoby Brissett and the Arizona Cardinals. The Seattle Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites. It is Kevin Harlan and Trent Green on CBS. Let's wrap it up, Greg. Where's the weakness? How can we find the point of injury for NFL teams to compete with what Mike Mack has going in the Pacific
Now,
Northwest?
the weakness is that they got to play the unstoppable Jacoby Brissett this week, and the Arizona Cardinals. Very interesting that they named Jacoby Brissett the starter, and one day later, Kyler Murray goes on injured reserve. Now, Murray's been out with that foot injury. No one's questioning that, obviously he's hurt.
Right.
And there was some reporting, Ian Rappaport put it out that, sometimes with these foot sprains, it's a 4+ week injury. The thing that's confusing is he's already been out a month. He wasn't put on injured reserve before, so they were hoping it would appear that he would be back within that 4-week window. And he's been on the practice field for 3 weeks. Clearly, they're playing better offensively. We don't need to repeat all the reasons why, like with Jacoby Brissett. It's just obvious. You can see it. But how it all was being handled, I think it's fair to wonder what exactly was going on behind the scenes and if Kyler Murray's going to be on the team next year. I thought it was interesting that Gannon said, look, we talked to Kyler and we talked to a few people before making this decision to putting it on injured reserve. This is like an organizational thing, what's been going on going to Jacoby.
I think if he wasn't really hurt, we hear Kyler Murray talk about it. Whether it's social post scrubbing, the Cardinals from his Instagram or whatever. I think he is hurt. Maybe they're saying, okay, maybe he can come back. Maybe he can come back. You know what?
But now we got another month, so he'll be out almost 2 months by that point.
So let's sit him. Jacoby Brissett's playing well. Marvin Harrison got the ball last game. Everyone talks about he was getting the ball before. He wasn't getting targeted that much beforehand, even with Jacoby Brissett. But the offense was on time. I think part of it is because they're playing a terrible Cowboys defense.
Yes.
I mean, because here's how misleading some of this stuff is. The 27 points that Arizona scored, those are the third fewest points that the Cowboys allowed.
Fair.
Right. So as bad as their defense is, they actually played better than they did normally. But Jacoby Brissett, you just saw it. And part of it is physical size. He can throw the ball with a 6'4" defensive end in his face, whereas Kyler's got to bounce it, extend it, and everyone else is in scramble rules. And so I think Jacoby's patience with some things, but also his quick decision-making is why this offense is working a little bit better. The offensive line playing a little bit better, a little bit more physically. We'll see how it goes. I mean, this week, it's going to be tough. I mean, he'll show me something if he goes up to Seattle and handles Leonard Williams and the way that defensive front. My God, they are smacking people up there.
And they got swept last year by the Seahawks in a version of the Seahawks that wasn't as good as this one.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect Seattle to take care of business, but I really don't want it to get lost that before they played the worst, well, the Bengals exist, but before they played among the worst defenses in football right now, Jacoby Brissett balled out against the Indianapolis Colts, who have a good defense.
But they didn't score.
And the Green Bay Packers, who have a good defense. And so I think that this is important to remember that Jacoby Brissett has this consistency that the team really, you can tell, has craved. If you listen to the press conferences post-game from Calais Campbell, from Trey McBride, who was on the Scott Van Pelt set after the game, they clearly wanted to keep rolling the way that they are, regardless of an injury. Kyler is hurt, and I think it's confusing for fans when there are reports from practice of Kyler taking reps with at practice a couple weeks ago, and then but the injury is going to be something that's sidelining him for a while as well. So I think there's some mixed messaging that needs to get under control out there for sure. But at the same time, I don't want to discredit what Jacoby Brissett has done and how Drew Petzing clearly sees him as the guy, sort of a throwback of what Drew Petzing used to do, running this offense back when he was full-on QBX system under, with the Browns, under Stefanski, those types of things.
show me something this week, because if they can be competitive in this game and just give me an entertaining product, and they want more than that, but that would show that this team is still going to make some noise, I think, down the stretch. I'm not sure if they can do it.
And I thought it was interesting, though. We were listening to the broadcast, and the booth is calling to keep Brissett.
Oh yeah, Troy Aikman. And
I don't hear. You just don't hear that happen often. And this was before.
That's why we love Troy, though. He'll do it.
He'll tell you. But this was before we knew that this was going to actually be an injured reserve situation. You know what I mean? Like I know we have that context now, but to have the broadcast team calling to keep Brissett as the quarterback after going through, Tom Brady can downplay these meetings all they want, but those guys really get in there in those meetings, and they're in the building. To say those things on the broadcast was telling to me.
And again, I'll bring it up once again because I always will. I wish the booth community had collectively decided to support Jacoby Brissett when he clearly should have been the starting quarterback in Cleveland, where it's a little bit, for some reason, it was easier for people to defend Deshaun Watson keeping his starting job, where Kyler Murray has kind of been on the opposing end of threats and critique from the general booth community for the majority of his NFL
You're so
career.
right, though.
Yeah, if there's a guy there, everybody's like, well, they're better now with Jacoby. It's going to be Kyler.
Let's think about like this game too from Seattle's point of view. They're coming off like a high. It's a much tougher matchup. Rashid Shaheed is there.
I cannot wait to see what this
for the first time. They already led the league in air yards per attempt. So I do love a team that's building on strengths, like strength on strength on strength. And he's just going to give them so much. And I am curious, just when they're on offense, their offensive line, who's played well against this Cardinals front, which can test your protection scheme and your communication. And they have Walter Nolan now, who I like.
He looked great.
Who looked good. So it's a good matchup, I think, when the Seahawks have the ball.
What this does, though, getting Shaheed is going to open up the run game, because now you've got two vertical threats. We know JSN's better up the seam. Now you got a guy who could do stuff on the outside. Okay, so now you're going to have to, if you're playing nickel, you're more worried about rotating coverages than seeking a safety to stop the run.
Yes.
Which is what teams are doing to the Seahawks. So this is something that's going to open up things for Arroyo in the middle of the field, but I think because Seattle doesn't run the ball consistently well, this is going to pull guys back to open up some seams for the
100%, and they can stay in 12 personnel, which they clearly have designed their version of 12 personnel because they want to attack teams in the passing game with two dominant receivers and two dominant tight ends as mismatches. And they're not seeing a lot of light boxes, to your point, Steve. They're only seeing light boxes 20% of rushing attempts this season. And so that number is going to dramatically change. That's going to probably flip on its head because they're going to have to pull everybody back to the middle of the field.
I will say, if you're a Seattle fan who's grading things and Darnold's throwing all these downfield passes, there's only 4 teams that have more interceptions than touchdowns allowed on deep passes, and one of them is the Arizona Cardinals.
Hey now.
Ooh.
Maybe, while you're working things out.
There you go.
I'll never I never put it past Jonathan Gannon to come up with a
he
1 week game
now.
Game plan that makes it tight, makes it tough. So they're 6.5 point favorites. They're a pretty decent survivor option. I know we respect the Cardinals, but we have not picked our survivor pick of the week. Last week we had the Rams. I mean, we've been in blowout city. We've hit 7 straight weeks now?
We have.
In terms of the survivor.
Can I offer up Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers at home against the Saints? We could chase the Saints 2 weeks in a row.
But we're not eligible to take the following teams: the Bills, Lions, Packers, Chiefs, Colts, Rams. Essentially the best offenses in the league, as you pointed out a week ago. That really does eliminate a lot of the good options in this week in particular. It's getting tough out here. The Panthers are a strong option. I would say the Panthers and the Seahawks are, to me, pretty clearly the best 2 options.
Yeah, if you're asking me, Jacoby or Tyler Shuck, I'd rather play against Tyler Shuck.
I'm going Panthers.
Carolina.
Oh, that could doom us, but all right. It's hard.
I would have gone Seattle, so I can win either way. Either we win as a group, or I can point out that should have been the Seahawks.
And isn't that just what it's all about?
Yes, pretty much.
I would like to use you guys as a resource for a project I've been working on.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you've had a conversation about the MVP.
Yes.
The MVP conversation is sometimes deemed a race, sometimes simply deemed a conversation, but more often than not, it takes the form of a verbal tournament, Steve. With loosely defined rules that seemingly change from year to year. So I wondered, what if I used the incredible resource of the brain power available to me at NFL Daily and facilitated a conversation about the conversation, while also highlighting its inherent absurdity and lack of logical consistency to ultimately predict the 2025 most valuable player using key metrics.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like
so it's a
numbers.
scoring system that begins because, as Baker Mayfield said, and again, this is not what I believe. This is just what the circumstances have put forth, because Greg does it all the time. We have to analyze the people voting for the MVP while we make our statements about who the MVP is going to be. So once week 10 begins, if you are a non-quarterback, it is minus 17 points. We have to go back to Adrian Peterson. The only reason he got the MVP is because a lot of the qualifications weren't met by the quarterbacks this year. If you are a defensive player, it is minus 50 points. Off the bat. You have to do the following things. If you have a positive game after week 10 and you are in the conversation, which we've already established, some players who are in their conversation, we'll finalize things and make this once we get week 10 going. It's plus 5. If you have a positive game in prime time or a major 4:25 Eastern time start, after week 10, it's plus 7. If it's after week 10 against the contender, it's plus 10. And you guys don't have to worry. I'll track all this in an Excel spreadsheet that
I'm going to get real into this.
Morose here. A negative primetime game after week 10 is negative 12. After week 11, it's negative 15. Remember back when Brock Purdy was an MVP contender and he had the negative primetime game, fell off.
He was done at that point.
Yep.
It was the same thing happened to Michael Vick in like a Monday night game. It was Michael Vick versus Tom Brady. 3 weeks later, Michael Vick didn't get a vote.
And so it's those scoring, primetime versus primetime against contender. The scoring goes up and changes every single week. I'll have the full list available whenever we finish. Negative primetime game after week 13 goes all the way up to negative 20.
Oh, yeah, that does hurt. Yeah.
And you guys will be helping me determine whether it was a positive game or a negative game. Again, in my view, things can be a little gray.
I was about to say, you could play, Patrick Mahomes could go 13 of 30.
Exactly. But in terms of the MVP conversation, there are only winners and
yeah, it's true. It is very binary. What if it's a 4:05 game? Let's say the Darnold Baker Mayfield Seahawks game happens later in the year, but it's 4:05. It's buried. It's a Fox game when it's a CBS doubleheader week.
Well, later
you get minus. What happens?
Yeah, later in the year, Greg, the flex comes into play. Because in the conversation, later in the year games are important. To me, they're all football games. And we can evaluate the teams with their totality of their resume.
This is the Baker rules.
But the Baker Mayfield logical understanding of the MVP applies here. If you're leading the NFL in a category while in the conversation, but it only lasts for that week, it's plus 5. If you break a season-long NFL record at the end of the season, it's plus 15.
Oh, yeah.
If you've never won the MVP despite a solid resume, it is plus 12. And if you've won multiple MVPs or you won the MVP last year, it is minus 6 in the final week. That is the conversation.
Wow.
Well, they won't be playing in the final week.
Yeah. This explains...
That's like the Drew Brees rules.
This explains why J.J. Watt did not win the MVP that season, that he had the greatest season any defensive player has ever had, because he had the minus 50.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Really sunk him.
Yeah.
Really
Because he
sunk
got
him.
close even with
And
despite it.
he was in the conversation every week.
The conversation, well, I don't know how we determine who's even starting the conversation, because one of the most ridiculous things about the conversation, do you remember, mid-October when Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott were in the conversation? And yet here we are just a few weeks later.
Yeah,
But how does
it doesn't
Saquon-
feel like they're not.
But Baker himself said that this is when football starts.
That's true.
This is it.
But how does Saquon
do they get
under
back
those
in?
rules not win that last year then? They played nothing but prime time.
Well, he got the minus.
Off the top, though.
He got
Off the top. That's a one-shot deal,
He
right?
got the minus 17
Yeah,
and
one time.
and Josh Allen's team had the consistent success, and he plays the quarterback position, and he had big wins late in.
And he hadn't won the MVP before, despite a great resume. That's a plus 12.
Saquon hasn't either.
Plus
Here's
12.
my question for you.
Dang,
Patrick.
Lamar's got no shot.
No, he doesn't.
What do we also count? So obviously we count players who are in the conversation.
Correct.
Okay. Do we also count players who are the subjects of many takes and quotes and headlines that say we should be talking more
Yes.
about
Ooh.
or it's,
Oh,
or,
no, that's a whole nother
or it's-
section.
That's
it's
the Daniel Jones rules.
or it's time to have a conversation about.
Yes.
Those guys
Once the
count.
conversation is invoked, you can be placed in the conversation. But if statistically you're eliminated from the point total, it's not going to matter. Like Sam Darnold and Dimes will remain in the conversation
Yes.
significantly longer than JSN and Jonathan Taylor, despite perhaps not having a similar level of
It's that minus
contribution.
Matthew
17.
Stafford's going to get a
Wow.
bump right there too.
He's in-
Matthew Stafford is hitting a lot of these.
He is hitting a lot of the qualifications for the conversation.
We need to be talking more about conversation is it like a cousin? I think it's a cousin to this conversation. It's related, yeah.
Well, those are the guys who the scoring is a little bit lower, so it's a tier down.
Okay.
And so they're going to need some huge performances, perhaps break an NFL record in order to get into the actual conversation.
I'm glad we did this. I'm glad I'm looking behind the glass and I'm seeing our producers. Drew is like wondering, why am I here right now? Why is this show still going on?
Eric's just thinking about how much math he's going to have to do on
No, I
QB
got it.
Island.
None of this is going
He's
on
gonna-
NFL
he's like having
channel.
QB
It's
Island.
all being cut out. You're not going to see it at Prime Pizza back on the back patio.
Yeah,
if you
baby.
show up on Friday
And
afternoon.
we should have a conversation about that.
Yeah, we should. You can check us out, by the way, on the NFL channel. I believe Friday afternoons, maybe Wednesday afternoons. Who knows? It's all a surprise. We will be back in this very feed for Thursday Night Football. And because Nick Shook and I look at Raiders, Broncos, and we say, there's a chance it's one-sided, we're going to give you more. We're going to do a little power rankings. We haven't done that in a long time. So we're going to come up with who are the best teams in the NFL. That'll be us on Thursday night. But I don't know if we can top this show. Let's have a conversation about it.